The whole video, Logic decided, there's 3 points to his videos. The whole video, you decided to jab and attack Christianity and God 24/7 in the whole video.
Well, yeah. You made a video specifically dedicated to defending Christianity, specifically the doctrine of hell, and I made a video dedicated to rebutting said defense. That's going to require me to point out why your defense fails, which is going to involve criticism of Christianity, yes. You say you've seen a bunch of my videos, you know my formula.
It's weird to talk to someone who's in a costume wearing 3D glasses once again. So when you're sitting here misconstruing my words, it's so much more even confusing to me because I don't know who's doing this to me.
What's confusing about it? You're some guy on the internet, you say words. I'm some guy on the internet and I say words. Listen, interpret, evaluate. It's not that hard. Rebut or ignore my arguments and get the fuck on with your day, not sit there whining that I didn't include a scan of my passport for you.
So the whole argument you had against me was one focused on my mistake, and you ran with that completely throughout the whole video.
For 5 minutes out of 21, only in direct response to you making points based on that claim, after which I talked about different shit for the other 3/4 of the video.
Which is cool, it's fine. I understand I was wrong. There's no excuse, but you could have corrected that. You could have told me it doesn't make sense just the way you did and not have to attack God or attack my religion or attack my faith in order for you to do that.
Your entire video was about how it's a just consequence if human beings receive eternal torture for not believing what you believe. Remember?
The only way to God is through Jesus Christ, and you're gonna sit here and tell me that if you disobey everything and don't live out your purpose and choose not to follow God or anything, you want a reward for that? You want to be rewarded for that? You feel God can't be mad? You feel that you could get mad at whatever when wrong is done to you, but God can't get mad when wrong is done to him, when you do him wrong? He can't get mad? He can't have wrath? He can't... Are you kidding me? Read Revelations.
So if you wrong God by, among other things, not believing he exists, he's right to have wrath and punish you by putting you in hell. And after saying this absolute shit, your response to me calling your religion garbage for making you say such terrible things about other people is to play the offense card, because I said a few mean words about your all-powerful torture daddy. Oh, poor little baby, I'm so sorry I hurt your precious little feels. Asshole who spent 15 minutes ranting about why you think it'd be just dandy if I and everyone else on the planet who disagrees with you were burned alive for all eternity. You certainly didn't throw out the first offensive comment in this conversation, no.
I have no interest in attacking atheists. I have atheist friends, and I have like this clothing brand that's called Lord of Lords, and even my atheist friends, like, they support my clothing brand and things like that. They support my whole brand, what I got going on.
Well, that's lovely that you get along. At least that means you only think your friends should suffer infinite screaming pain in the afterlife and not in this life. That's good. At least you won't take it into your own hands. Do you ever sit down and really tell them in clear, unambiguous language what you actually think would be an appropriate fate for them? I feel like that wouldn't be a very friendly conversation.
Hey man, can we talk for a second? It's kind of important.
Sure, bro, what's up?
Well, with you being an atheist and all, I don't know how God's gonna judge you after you die, but I just wanted to let you know that if he decides to toss you into the lake of fire to suffer forever and ever, I think that's the right decision, because you're basically shitting on his carpet just by existing.
Aw, thanks, dude. That's real nice of you. I'm so glad we're friends.
I love them. I don't force them to do anything. We talk about God all the time and things like that, and they go on their own way and live their life, and hey, that's fine. That's between them and God, so I have no interest in throwing 500 million jabs at you, except for the fact that you're wearing a costume, wearing 3D glasses with like a Halloween font.
Well, that and that you think it'd be pretty acceptable if I were to burn and scream and suffer forever and ever and ever. That's a jab you've been throwing out a lot in the last couple of videos. Pretty hardcore one, too. And now you're whining that I shouldn't attack the infinitely powerful, unassailable, hideous beast that you think is going to do it to me and every other atheist on the planet, your friends included, because it's mean to you. What a laughable attempt to get a free pass. Jesus Christ. At least my jabs are just little jokes at your expense, not this fucked up jigsaw shit you started out with. Personally, if I had to choose, I'd take the jokes every time. At least jokes just mean you think someone's funny, not that you hate them so much much that if you think they're going to receive the worst possible fate imaginable, you don't defend them, but the one who would do it to them.
Because I guess you played on the whole Logicked. Like, I feel like that came from Wicked. I don't know. You could tell me. I guess that's another question.
It's because when you verb a noun ending in IC and make it past tense without adding a K, you're going to pronounce it with an S sound because you're influenced by words like sacrificed, prejudiced, practiced, and so on. So it's helpful to add a K, which is why you find one in words like panicked, mimicked, trafficked, or picnicked. Duh.
So you focused on one mistake the entire video, and that's the mistake that I said angels don't have free will. And obviously it sounded so silly and dumb that right after I said, and then they chose to and then they chose to disobey God. You know, and you ran with that 100% and made that whole, and just woo with that whole thing. You said the same thing in different words the whole video.
It's starting to feel like you're saying this same thing in different words throughout this whole video. I've already shown you exactly how much I talked about the free will of angels topic in the original video, and it wasn't terribly much. In fact, I talked about it about as much as you did, because when I talked about it, I was responding to you talking about it.
But that's fine, no problem. The main thing I'm actually just like what about, just like a little confused about is why you misconstrued my words. You said that if a child is playing in with a ball in the street or whatever, and the ball keeps going or something like that, whatever, that the parents, you know, it makes sense to, I guess, punish them in a way where you take away the ball until they learn not to play in the street with it or whatever. That's what you said. You said it will make sense that way. But then you said what basically God is doing is not that.
Correct. In Christianity, hell is an eternal afterlife of suffering. It is in no way the same as taking away a child's ball so they pay attention to safety instructions.
What basically you said I'm saying is that God, instead of taking the ball and punishing them, maybe you have to take the ball a couple times for them to get the point, not to play in the street. You said that instead, that what I'm saying is like someone, a parent, instead of taking the ball and not giving them the ball and punishing them from playing with this ball, instead you grab the child and throw them into the highway and get crashed by a car and die and all that. And I don't know where. I'm so sorry if I misled you to believe, or anybody to believe. I don't know where my words came off in a way or shape or manner that I said or I feel, or that God is out here just saying, oh, you made a mistake? Okay, you're dead.
The analogy was not about death, Emmanuel. It was about proportionality and purpose. The point was that you would never punish your child in a way so extremely disproportionate to their actions. And if your goal was to make them behave differently, you would not punish them in a way that makes them incapable of ever again performing that different behavior. If you're somehow confused by analogies that just happen to involve death, fine. Replace it with any other extreme overreaction you want. It works just as well. In fact, I did it several times throughout the video. Although, considering you apparently didn't watch it closely enough to figure out that I stopped talking about angels' free will before 7 minutes, I guess you wouldn't have noticed that. I should point out to you, though, that death is a damn sight more pleasant of a thing to experience than hell would be. You seem to be defending God here because, hey, he doesn't kill people for disbelief, he just puts them in hell for it. You know that kind of defense only works when the thing you say he doesn't do is worse than the thing he does, right?
I never said that. I never said God's out here killing people for mistakes and, hey, if you're not worshiping me, you're gone. Let's kill you right now.
I know. What you're talking about is, if you die not believing in me, you're gone. Let's give you the second death and torture you. Be careful how you answer that. You wouldn't want to disagree with God, would you? Remember how you told people to read Revelation? Well, Revelation 21 verse 8. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
What we're talking about, first of all, when you get judged, and it's your time to be judged, whether you're going to heaven or hell, I don't know. That's between you and God. But that's after you're here. That is not on earth.
Yeah, no shit. I'm aware that you believe God tosses his children into hell after they die and doesn't just kill people on earth the moment he gets annoyed with them. I'm sorry, but do you not understand what an analogy is? You describe something that's not literally the same as the thing you're talking about, but where relevant components map to what you're talking about to help illustrate your point. Have you ever taken an English class?
I never said you make a mistake and God kills you and sends you to hell.
Right, which is why I didn't say you did. Clean out your ears.
I don't understand why you kept running with that. Your whole entire video was literally metaphors about how God is so horrible and how God is so this and God is so... Aren't you atheist? Why you talk so much about God?
Well, in the case of that specific video, because you were defending the congruence of two ideas, specifically hell and a loving God. So in rebutting you, my burden was to demonstrate their incongruence, which involves speaking hypothetically about the actions you assign to the being you believe in. But more generally, I like to discuss the negative aspects that Christians simultaneously describe and deny God having, because their nonsensical belief in the congruence of hell with a loving God is a critical part of many people's belief, which a lot of them haven't thought very deeply about. And eroding their ability to maintain this cognitive dissonance helps some people see the inconsistency and thus the untruth of their beliefs, and for many serves as the first step towards the rejection of what I, and later they, believe to be a major life-altering falsehood, Christianity. And if you care at all about truth, critical thinking, and discovery, and you notice that something many people believe is false or harmful or making people care less about figuring out what's actually true, it's very much worth talking about. It doesn't even matter what the idea is. Standing up for truth is worth it. Do you disagree? Have you never wanted to speak out and argue against something that you think is incorrect and causing problems? Well, you already have, because that's exactly what you were doing in the video I initially responded to, and I think that's great. I disagree with your opinion very strongly, but I think that you should be speaking out for what you think is true. But if this is your genuine opinion on what people should do when they think something is wrong, then why didn't you take your own advice and shut your fucking mouth?
Why do atheists have YouTube channels where they don't believe in God or Satan or any of this, but they have YouTube channels to sit there and convince people to do the same?
I will answer your question, but if you're like most people I explain this to and you'd rather just keep on thinking it's because I hate God or whatever fucking nonsense, skip to the time on the screen. Well, I can't speak for others, but in my case, it's because I'm a person who values truth, which is probably all I need to say to make most people understand. I value truth, I see poor reasoning leading to a likely false conclusion, and so I wish to correct it. Does there need to be more? Not in my opinion, but I'll expand on it a little for you. I think both an individual and a society is better equipped to deal with reality when they prefer the truth to a falsehood in its place. I think you probably at least pay lip service to the same distaste for falsehood. I mean, your theology presents lies as things of Satan, not of God. And while lies aren't the only cause of false beliefs, it doesn't really matter if people believe something false because they believed a lie, or there was a misunderstanding, or a misinterpretation, or shoddy reasoning, or just outright denial. The end result is the same. They believe something false, which can impact their behavior, which can impact the world. Now, of course, I'm opposed to all kinds of different falsehoods. A lot of people make videos about falsehoods that aren't tied to religion, and I find these interesting. But there are a few reasons that I stick with religion in particular most of the time. Let's compare a religion, specifically Christianity, to something else that I've considered debunking. Medical quackery, specifically say anti-vaccination. Here are some things either that Christianity has and anti-vax doesn't, or that Christianity has way more of than anti-vax. Christianity head-on attacks the ability of people to think critically and freely because it has built-in rules that explicitly forbid doubt, questioning, and unbelief, and there are threats to back them up. Supernatural ones like hell, and in the real world, things like social stigma or exclusion or worse. Many people are willing to act this way because the religion is designed to function as the center of their lives and the basis for all their thinking. It's supposed to be what they see as the most important thing in the entire world. And Christianity has built-in commands to spread the ideas of Christianity and further stunt the ability to critically and skeptically think about things. These sorts of things might manifest to some degree in, for example, the anti-vax community, but there's no central scripture giving these sort of commands. Another issue is scale. As opposed to something like anti-vax, the scale of the believing population is mind-boggling, and it is extremely politically and socially influential. Anti-vax and other medical quackery has quite a few adherents, but nothing remotely like this. There's probably more things I could think of if I spent more time thinking about it, but that's quite enough for me. Now, of course, beliefs like anti-vax have their own negative traits that religions don't have, like, for example, the direct impact of remaining unvaccinated on health, and prioritizing that above the other stuff I've just said is just as valid. But for whatever reason, I'm drawn more to debunking religion as a result of the issues that I mentioned. Other people find other issues to be a higher priority, and that's amazing, because we need people to address all of these bad ideas, not just one. And you know what? The underlying theme on my channel has always been the importance of critical thought, and that indirectly helps to immunize people against anti-vax and a lot of other silly ideas anyway, so. The final thing I'll mention is that the arguments of, say, medical woo often come down to things like discussions of scientific consensus and credibility and reviewing the methodology of studies and stuff like that, which I can do, and I've done that in, for example, my creationism debunk videos. But I have a lot more fun discussing the structure of arguments, because that fits well with my fairly structured ex-programmer thought process, and I tend to find religious arguments just more satisfying in that way. Does that answer your question, or did you skip the segment and ignore it completely?
And push their atheist agenda and mission. That sounds like a faith to me. That sounds like a religion to me. I don't know, but whatever.
Disagreement is not a religion, Emmanuel, no matter how loud that disagreement is. Nor is having an agenda or having a message a religion. Things don't automatically become religions just because people are passionate about them. But it's good to hear you use faith and religion as insults. That's progress.
I'm just always confused about that. You have a right to do what you want. I have a right to religious freedoms and all that. But the fact that you have this YouTube channel attacking God, you're not just coming at what we saying and trying to see if it makes sense or anything like that. Because if you really are, it sounds like you're not atheist and you want to find out about God.
Emmanuel, what do you think an atheist is? The definition of that word is not someone who does not try to see if theism makes sense. It's someone who does not believe theism is correct. And conversely, the definition of theist is not someone who wants to find out about God. I could spend all day, every day, genuinely trying my best to see if your beliefs make sense, genuinely trying to find out what you think about God, and remain just as atheistic as ever. The only time I would stop being an atheist is if one day I said, aha, these beliefs do make sense, I believe in God now! I can't seriously have to explain this to you right now, man. This isn't even Atheism 101, this is like atheism preschool.
Alright? I don't know. That's just me, because if you really are trying to really dig into the Bible and let's talk about the Bible and let's find about God, it sounds like you're open to listen and open to hear, right? Maybe you atheists, but just really open to hear and listen. But you don't do that through jabs and attacking people throughout your whole entire 20-minute long video, then a part 2 of the same old regurgitated same thing.
Oh please, you didn't even watch part 2. Don't comment on its contents.
Now there's a part 2 which I haven't watched.
Now, my video was not about the Bible or about God. It was about you and the horrible things that you believe about other people. I don't think your God exists, remember? I don't give a shit what a non-existent thing thinks. I only care what you think God thinks. Because, like it or not, what people think changes the world, and what a non-existent God thinks doesn't. And those jabs I make tend to work wonders at getting across just how terrible your ideas really are. At least for some people. People don't always notice the full extent of a thing until it's forcefully pointed out to them. There are plenty of more soft-spoken, less firebrandy kind of atheists on this platform, and they reach people too, but they tend not to be the same people. It's all useful. And thanks to your spectacularly bad video, someone, somewhere, realized just how hateful the concept of hell really is and took the first step towards shedding the worst parts of their beliefs. And maybe, eventually, even their entire religion. Thanks in part to you. You thanked me earlier for strengthening your faith by making you read the Bible, and frankly I don't care about your belief. You already had it, nothing much changed. But I do care about all those people who heard what you said and were disturbed enough by it to think critically about their beliefs just for a moment. Because in a couple years, they're going to be the people sending me the messages I get, thanking me for helping them see that they don't have to live in fear of hell and hatred of the other.
The whole world, you, animals, plants, everything created by God. Do you believe that?
Take a wild guess. And if your guess is no, then why are you trying to argue that I'm not an atheist?
If not, then the rest is really going to be hard for you to believe as well.
If I don't believe in God, it's going to be hard to believe claims based on God's existence? Huh. Learn something new every day.
The rest is really going to be hard for you to, I guess, comprehend as well.
Specifically, it's going to be hard for me to comprehend how a loving God is congruent with hell, even though it's not. And this would be easier if I believed. Yeah, it would be easier if I believed, because belief in that self-contradictory God involves having cognitive dissonance in the first place. I'd have already gone over that hurdle.
When God drowned the earth, right, that was because the people who were alive at that time period were all living as sinners. We're all living out of God's will. All right. We're all living and turning this world into just a world of sin, a world of just everything that's opposite to the kingdom of God, opposite of love, opposite of his holiness, opposite of greatness. It was the complete opposite.
So there are a bunch of things I could say here, but the one I really want to say is, are you a young earth creationist too? Like God literally flooded the entire earth a few thousand years ago to kill all the humans off, and then Noah saved a few people on an ark? Cause, okay, if you want to do the same shit you did last time and correct just one mistake, make it that one.
And he gave a chance to the world, and he said, I'm going to drown the world, and we're going to restart. But, yeah, Noah, and he chose Noah for that. And he used Noah for that. Noah could have said no. But Noah said yeah. And the ark was built. And people had a choice to go into the ark or not.
All right, scenario for you. You're going around minding your own sinful business of what, actually? None of God's laws were even handed down to people yet. Not even like the 10 Commandments. I guess there was like, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but that's not applicable unless Adam and Eve brought a seed out of the garden with them and started cultivating the fuckers. I guess when Cain killed Abel, God kind of implied to him that killing is bad, but he never actually said so. There's no indication he ever told anyone else either. And okay, God does say in Genesis 6 verse 13 that the earth is filled with violence through them, so I guess that was the problem, even if he never actually bothered to tell them not to do that. Regardless of whether that or something else was the main issue, well, that's kind of on God for not bothering to give people any rules yet, isn't it? If you don't tell people what you want them to do, they'll probably not do what you want them to do. Maybe you should have just got rolling on those 10 Commandments, eh? Tried a little communication first before killing everyone and sending them to hell. Which, by the way, you said he doesn't do. I guess you just meant he doesn't do it anymore. Okay, I got sidetracked, sorry. So you're minding your sinful business of something, just trying to get through your busy sinful day so you can go home and relax with your sinful family on your sinful couch, and some guy runs up to you ranting and raving about God and a worldwide flood and how you have to come with him right now and live in his giant boat that's packed to crushing density with animals. So what do you, a person with an allegedly functioning brain, do? Yeah, that's what I thought. Get out of here with this shit.
They didn't care what God had to say. They didn't believe. They didn't have faith. They actually hated God. It was the same reason. The people on earth at that time were acting just the same way as Satan and all the other angels who decided to follow him and became fallen. But God gave them a chance, and he said, just like he said to the angels, hey, you have a chance.
Except he didn't, did he? What he actually said was, Noah, go tell people they have a chance. You understand the difference, right? It's the difference between God telling some guy to go make YouTube videos and hope someone gives a shit, and God's voice booming from the heavens, here is your chance. One of those is God actually telling people they have a chance, and the other one's half-assed pretending. And why would God feel the need to fake it? Who's he trying to save face with? I don't know. It's your fairy tale. You tell me.
Yes or no? Where you want to? All right, no. All right, you guys are casted out of here because there's no sin in heaven. We can't have that up there. You know what I'm saying? It's a holy place. It's his kingdom. We cannot have sin up there.
Great, so say the magic word and make those people stop existing the same way you made them start. Easy peasy. This isn't a defense of hell, Emmanuel, or even the flood for that matter. It would have been just as good of an argument if you put the mic down your pants and ripped a fart into it.
The angels who stayed are now considered holy or the elect, and these are angels that are not going to sin. Not that they can't, but are not going to.
By which you mean God knows with absolute certainty that in the future those angels won't sin, right? Okay, then they can't. Not just they won't, they can't. Those angels haven't made any of their future choices yet, but because their future is already set in stone, when it comes time to make their choice, they will have no choice but to conform to the predetermined sequence of events, because to change a correctly foreknown event is to make it not foreknown, and thus a logical contradiction. So they will only have one single option they can ever take at any given moment in the future with relation to whether they'll sin or not, and if there's only one option, it's not optional. So sorry bud, your angels still don't have free will. Problem still exists. Sure, it sounds better if you don't actually think about it, which is why you should probably think about these things before you believe them.
It's just not their will to. They had that choice to go with Lucifer, with Satan. They had the choice to do it, but they decided to stay, and they decided that their will is righteousness. They decided that was a choice.
Decided is past tense, but having free will doesn't refer to the past. It means you can change your mind right now or in the future. And in this scenario, or any scenario involving an all-knowing God, the future is absolutely unchangeable. Those angels will never have the option to make a choice that was not preset for them. It's already set in stone that they won't. They have no more free will in this version of your belief than they did before you changed your mind, and as a result, all the same problems still exist. You really gotta be more careful about this stuff, man.
Just how we have choices too. Every day we wake up and we can either get closer to God or we could get further from God. We could either continue to live a sinful life and die a sinner, and when we get to God, I'm not going to tell you where you go in hell or not, but I know that you didn't live up to his word. You didn't choose to live by God.
It's so funny when religious people do this, by the way. They get nailed on the hell issue, so they try to soften it up with this "I can't judge you" shit, while meanwhile judging you harder than ever. Yes, Emmanuel, I get it. You're totally not saying where I'm going, but you're pretty damn sure I'm going to hell, and if I do, I earned it. Don't be a pussy, say what you mean.
You have to remember, if he's your Lord and Savior, if he's your Father, if he's God, he knows what's best for you.
What's best for me? Okay. Tell me, who is eternal torture the best thing for? How could you possibly say that's the best for anyone? And don't try to dodge the question with some weak-ass, I don't know if you'll specifically be damned kind of shit. Doesn't matter. You think someone, as in at least one person, will go to hell, or you wouldn't talk about it like a place people will go. I don't care if you're talking about me specifically or someone else. I don't care if you're talking about a billion people or one person. The issue is exactly the same, so grow a spine and address it. I don't even care if you address it publicly. I'm not challenging you to do anything in public, but at least be brave enough to address it in your own mind.
You have to have trust in him, okay?
No. Emmanuel, if I believed in a being anything like the horror you describe, it would not be worthy of any trust. The being that you believe in tortures people in a lake of fire for an infinite amount of time just for not being convinced of its existence by other people. I'd sooner trust whatever you'd get if you put Freddy Krueger, Darth Sidious, and the Joker together in the teleporter from The Fly.
Obviously, if you don't trust him, if you don't have faith, you don't believe God knows what's best for you. You don't believe he has the best for you. You believe that him wanting the best for you and suggesting that this is what's best. I created the world. I created everything. I think I know what's best.
Suggesting. That's what we're calling it now, is it? When someone threatens you with torture if you don't follow their, suggestion? Are you for real, dude? Come on. How can anyone say that and think that makes sense?
You know, and the fact that he acts like a parent.
No parent acts like that. Good parents do their damnedest to be as unlike that as they can be. Some awful parents try real hard to be that terrible to their kids, but because they're incapable of inflicting infinite harm on them, they still fail. By the way, you know how Christians have this hang-up about atheism where they think it has nothing to make people happy? Well, here's one thing. It makes me happy to think that nobody will ever actually suffer as much as you think they should.
A lot of us, just like with our fathers and mothers, they want the best for us, but we don't always listen. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Your dad just wanted the best for you, but you didn't listen. So he decided the best for you is to deep fry you for eternity. It is what it is.
But it's the same with God. It's like he wants the best for us, and you might not want the same. That's fine. But when it's your time to go out of here, I'm not sure why you think you deserve the right into the kingdom of heaven.
Dude, now you're just straight up repeating the same old shit I already discussed in my original response. Maybe before you responded to my response, you should have watched the whole thing instead of just half. I don't care about heaven. If your belief was just that people who don't believe in God cease to exist after they die, or sleep forever, or whatever, then we wouldn't be having this discussion. We might have a different discussion where I disagree with your reasoning, but I wouldn't be condemning your ideas as irredeemable misanthropic filth. And likewise, I also wouldn't have a huge problem if you did tell me you think I'm going to hell, but that the infinitely awful nature of it keeps you up crying at night because it's so unjust and unfathomably awful, and you denounce the God that set it up to work like that. It'd be an irrational fear, but at least it wouldn't be hateful. If that was your belief, I wouldn't be mad at you, I'd feel sorry for you. The problem is not at all whether you think I'll go to hell, so your excuse that it's not for you to know doesn't address the issue. The problem is that whether or not you think I'll wind up there, you think that if I do, it's fair, and you approve, and you'll vehemently defend it and proclaim your love for the thing you think will do it, and scold people for saying mean things about it. That's the big problem, not your belief itself, but your attitude towards it.
I don't think that if you lived a whole life of sinning, a whole life of denouncing God from your life, a whole life of defiling your spirit, and then it's your time to go, and God says, hey, you're not coming here. There has to be another place. He's not going to send you back to earth so you can continue to do more sins on in earth and continue to push us further away from God. You know what I'm saying?
What makes you think there has to be another place? You're not talking about some weakling nobody here, Emmanuel. You're talking about an almighty God who can do whatever he feels like. It's not like he's backed into a corner here, right? Option 1, like I said, make people go out of existence when they die, just like they came into it when they were born. Pretty simple for someone who can do anything. Option 2, he could make death like a really deep and dreamless sleep for the people who don't believe, and just keep them like that forever. It's functionally equivalent to ceasing to exist, but maybe God's just not powerful enough to destroy souls, I don't know. Option 3, if there's some weird rule that God is bound to that says he has to send people to some other place, create a place that doesn't involve burning them in a lake of fire forever? Pretty simple. And option 4, if you don't like any of those three, use your imagination. The stuff isn't exactly hard to come up with.
As a whole, we need to work to bring each other back to God, closer to God, etc. as a whole.
Then maybe you should rethink what you're saying, cause this shit does nothing but push people away. Do you really think the typical atheist wants to end up sounding as bad as you do right now? If they think that's what Christianity is, most of them probably won't give it a second glance.
You know what I'm saying? We want as many people to be saved as possible. That is my only goal. My goal is not to force anyone into anything. My goal is not to force you to believe or trust God. That's something that has to be built between you and God. That's something that you have to do for yourself, and you have to choose to do that for yourself.
Okay, then here's what you should do if you want atheists in particular to do that. Stop telling us that, oh, I don't know if you're gonna get tortured when you die, but you sure do have it coming, ingrate. Stop encouraging this attitude in people and pretending like it's okay. Oh, and when people get pissed off because you say shit like this and they tell you your ideas are bad, stop whining that you're offended that they don't like your ideas. And instead, come up with some actual arguments for God's existence that don't amount to believe me blindly or suffer the consequences. Almost no atheist is going to be convinced by that. If you really want to keep saying everything you're saying right now, go nuts, but just don't expect it to have the results you want.
In no way, shape, or form did I ever, or is God, for a mistake, suddenly killing people and sending them to hell. That is not what's happening.
Except the flood victims, of course. Anyway, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm gonna do a third part to find out what else you say. Even though I know it's a little bit repetitive right now, I'm still kinda loving this video, and when I'm just feeling it like this, I really don't want to stop. So audience, indulge me for one more video, will ya? See you in part 3.